14th step. It's a podcast, and you're on it. Hit the like and subscribe to get notified of future content. Help us beat the evil algorithm.
We have no forgiveness for algorithms. We want to beat it.
Yeah, it's
you
a
can
soulless,
help us.
Horrible thing.
It is. You know what algorithm gives me?
What?
Trauma.
Trauma.
Yes. But with a capital T.
We're really into this thing.
Oh, yeah, we are. Let's talk about trauma.
It's so hard to talk about it.
It's
is complicated. You could write books and books about it.
You could? Yeah. It was the best of days. It was the worst of days. Trauma. Let me tell you this, because we've talked about this in a previous podcast.
A long time ago.
Trauma means different things to different people, doesn't it?
It does.
And that's why it's such a tough subject. But when people have a lot of trauma, that is a big, big deal. And no one wants to feel that way. So they are going to want to do almost anything to not have to feel that way.
Whenever my daughter was like barely walking around and I had her at the park and this big dog ran up to her and like pushed her down. Mm-hmm. At that point, it's probably the most traumatic thing that ever happened to her.
Okay.
She was scared, but she ran to me and I was able to pick her up and comfort her and whatever, and then she got over it. I think trauma that sticks is when the people that you trust are the ones that are doing the hurting. And you have no one to go to. No
comfort.
No comfort at all. That's the kind of trauma that sticks, that teaches us that we can't trust other people. When we learn that we can't trust the people in our lives that are really the people we should trust the most, which is our family, then how are we supposed to grow in a world and trust other people?
Well, that's deep.
And that kind of pain, I think, carries with us. And I feel a lot of compassion to that. People that are angry as adults because of that kind of trauma, I want to be very patient with those people because it's a long road to heal that.
It sure is.
I think it starts with talking about it in as much detail as you can and really unpacking it and picking it apart. This is where I would recommend therapy for people.
Absolutely.
The 12 steps offer a really good way of...
It's a really good roadmap.
It is, but I think with really profound trauma, we should talk about it with someone who's trained to work with that.
Absolutely, and I think a big part of that journey is sobriety. It's a must at the beginning.
If we cope with our trauma by getting high or drunk or whatever, we're never going to learn how to get through it because we're just containing it. But
you're just adding layers.
Yeah, and then it's just underneath it. It's just stuck so far under there that we don't even know how to address it. Once we remove some of those layers and we're forced to start coping with it.
Trauma is that molten core.
Yeah.
And all the layers of almost every other topic we ever talk about, anger, resentment, negativity,
it's the
triggers,
fuel for it.
it's all the fuel for it. And you start peeling away all those stuff. And if you never get to there, they'll just start, it's like
really
lava. It
becomes the lens by which you see the world. And it is like that core. That's a really good antidote symbol.
But the antidote is difficult.
It is. It's a long road to self-forgiveness.
Yes, and sometimes you feel like you want to take a trip to the Arctic Circle. I'm trying to think of every word possible that has a T in the wrong spot. That gives me trauma. Or Rama.
This is no so
T.
derailed.
Silent T.
We've derailed.
We've derailed, but I have to make light of it because it's
heavy.
It's heavy.
I work with people who are traumatized every single day.
Oh man,
it's heavy.
Yeah, and in talking with guys that I coach and I talk to, I've done it long enough now to where when I meet somebody and we sit down and we start talking, within about 5 minutes, I can already tell if how this journey's going to go with them by the way they talk, and I can hear them talk about a couple of things because their attitude about certain things. You can read them. You kind of learn to read some people really quickly. Mm-hmm. I know you know exactly what I'm talking about, and but you also can't do it for them. So they have to go through as much as you've seen it with other people, there's no way you can shortcut somebody to recovery. So they have to do it themselves, and they have to run down this dead end and turn around and come back and have to go down that dead end. And depending on how deep that trauma is, they've got to talk to a professional and start that process of unwrapping it.
The solution to trauma, it's almost not fair, because these people have been saddled with pain of no fault of their own. When you're a child and you truly are powerless and you've been hurt, you've been saddled with this trauma. It's been given to you, but nobody can take it back.
Right.
And so what people have to understand is that their responsibility to unburden themselves with it. They have to take ownership of that pain. It's not coming from some other source. They have to own it. And that's a hard task. You
told me a long time ago when I first met you that one of the hardest things about being a addiction counselor is when somebody comes in with a lot of trauma that's happened to them by no fault of their own.
That's right.
And then you as a counselor have to try to explain to them that they then have to take responsibility for that.
They have to take responsibility for it.
And somebody that's like, I'm telling you, if they're not ready, they're going to go, what the?
I know.
They're talking really, about, screw you, dude. I'm out of here.
It sounds really cruel. And it is cruel. That's why it's trauma.
That's right.
It's a cruel thing. But once you learn to forgive.
You're wedged in so tight that it takes a violent act of like a pry bar to get you out. You know what I mean? It's something as traumatic to get you out of it.
Usually it's rock bottom for people because they've tried to numb it and they really don't want another solution, because they know if the solution is not just numbing it, it means I have to actually just live it and explore it.